Welcome back to the Future of Figure Skating. My name's Anna Keller. My guest today is Zabato Bebe. Zabato is a figure skating choreographer for the ice shows at Phantasialand in Germany, where he also contributes to casting and finding new talent for their shows. He previously skated with Cirque du Soleil and has developed a unique style that blends elements of hip-hop, African dance, and breaking on the ice. I first encountered Zabato after he had a video go viral last year featuring pair tricks with Alejandro Soler Castro. The two have formed one of the few male-male adagio pairs currently performing professionally. Zabato is also interested in technology and is researching the integration of AI into skating and the creative process at large, drawing on his degree from Johannes Kepler Universität Linz in Austria. We had a wide-ranging conversation about creativity, entertainment, and pushing the boundaries of what the art form can be. So I'm here with Zabato. It's great to have you on the show. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be on the podcast.
Well, I've been admiring your skating that you've been sharing on Instagram, and I have not yet gotten to see you skate in person, but I would love to know a little bit about how you think you developed what kind of unique style that you have as a skater and a performer, and how you got to the point of being who you are today as a skater.
Wow, that's a big question because I've been skating for quite some time, like for more than 30 years now. So, I started like, I don't know, maybe most people start by just going to my local ice rink and skating around a little bit. Coach approached me and was like, oh, like, well, approached not me directly, but my parents, my mom was like, oh, your son seems to have fun skating. Doesn't he want to take some skating lessons? And really all I wanted to do was getting to the exclusive area on the ice where the others couldn't skate, and just skate around there myself and have a little space for myself. But yeah, I just loved skating around, going as fast as I could, and yeah, playing around on the ice. So that's how I got started. And then normal competitive journey, I would say, with practicing once a week, twice a week, competing until I was about 18, and then I started to do ice shows. I had the luck that I got to audition in front of Kathy Steele and Willie BTEC from BTEC Production, like in person, which was super cool. They were in Vienna at the time, and yes, that really kicked off my professional skating career in doing shows, and led me to perform really all over the world with like one of the highlights were definitely performing with the Jacksons from Jackson 5, and also with Cirque du Soleil. And yeah, it kind of led me now to choreographing, also like full ice shows, and being involved in the production process of various shows. So that's that in a nutshell. I mean, we can go deeper on each on each part of that, but yeah, that's the gist of it.
I think that your parents are both involved in the art. Your dad's a dancer, I think. Is that right?
Correct. So my dad is from Cote d'Ivoire, from West Africa. He's an African dancer, dancing traditional, African dance. He studied at the Ballet de la Côte d'Ivoire, which is in Abidjan. And my mom, she's a teacher at high school and university for fine arts. So I think I didn't know it at the time, but as a kid, I was already exposed to different art forms. And so with my mom being a fine arts teacher, we went to museums, I remember, quite a few times, and I was always able to look at different techniques and different backgrounds of different artists, how they see the world. So I think the arts are beautiful because they allow you really to see things from a different perspective. The way someone is painting the landscape, what do they see? It's not an exact representation of what it is, but more an expression of what they feel. And that's how I like to think I express myself through figure skating as well on the ice. It's an expression of what I feel. And and then on my dad's side, as an African dancer, he always took me as a little kid. He took me to his dance classes, and sometimes I participated, sometimes not. But I was always exposed to that kind of movement vocabulary, and it was quite normal for me. So not seeing this on the ice at all was kind of strange. So but it felt very natural to me that to bring a different movement vocabulary onto the ice, which, I mean, if you think like in the 90s, figure skating in Austria wasn't really used to that kind of style of movement on the ice, that's for sure. But it felt very normal and natural to me. And only like in hindsight, I realized how lucky I was to grow up like this, and also to be able to skate and to bring all of these different worlds together. And that's kind of the mindset that has always been with me, like bringing different things together, different elements of different arts or technology, whatever it is, combining it in unusual and unexpected ways.
That's really great. And I can see how each of those things and what comes out of the synthesis of really different styles and different influences can really allow for the creativity. Did you feel like when you were competing and, learning skating that you had space to be yourself and bring in other parts of your background and your influences?
I wouldn't say that figure skating is really, at least like I said, in the 90s in Austria was the most wasn't really embracing anything that was different or unusual. And I definitely went through quite some challenges growing up on the ice, and people telling me that's not how you're doing things. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do like this, and you're supposed to look like that, and you're supposed to move this way, not that way. All the things that I was drawn towards were the things that were wrong in a way. But I was very lucky that my first coach, she was like red hair, and she was riding a Harley Davidson. She was showing up in leather pants and her leather jacket. So, she was definitely a rebel herself. And I don't know if I was the vehicle for her to piss off a little bit the Austrian figure skating scene at the time. But I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I'm sure she did. and there was she had a little group that really enjoyed like doing things a little bit differently. And always to say that I was encouraged actually to do, to do things the way I wanted to do things. I was always involved in the choreographic process. I think she was very open always as a little kid. I'm talking like 6, 7, 8 years old. She was definitely open to the movement that I was able to bring onto the ice, and was like, oh yeah, let's take this and let's take a little bit of that. It was small, but I think looking back, it was so important for me to feel like that I could bring this onto the ice and that I was able to express those things. And I think it really set me up to, continue to explore. I will never forget, after every session, I always had like 10, 15 minutes to time to just play around and do whatever I wanted. Like, yeah, okay, you're done now. 10, 15 minutes, session is over. Work on either what we worked on before or whatever you want. And for me, that was playtime. And I think play is so important in any creative field.
Yeah, no, I think that's so interesting. And we often talk about how like we want skaters to be creative, and at the top levels, like then hopefully you're getting rewarded for being innovative or that, but that if you don't let kids develop that, how are they supposed to suddenly be able to be creative when we've decided, well, now you're a senior, now we want you to show this.
Yeah.
Ow, what?
It's true, yeah. Don't do this. Oh, now go ahead and do it. And I would say there is something to be said about, honing your craft. All the edges, spins, jumps, like you need to know how to do those things properly, because if you don't know your tool, how can you express? How can you how can you improvise with a tool that you don't know how to use? Only when you have really full control over something, you can manipulate it to your will. And in that case, it's your body, it's your edges, it's your center of gravity. All these things are. So I'm glad that I went through this sometimes very painful process of doing figures and all all of this stuff to then be able to play around with it, and that is the hard work that goes into it. But I think it's always worth it, because then also when you reduce it, when you minimalize it, it's a choice. Like whenever you go to an exhibition and there is a painting and there is just one stripe, and like, oh, how is this art? And this is not art. Yes, it is art, because it was a choice. Because this artist could have done a million different things, but that was a choice to do it that way. And that to me makes it different from someone who didn't hone the craft, who doesn't know how to do anything else, but that's all they can do. And I think that's the artistic view of choice. Why do we do the things we do? Because there's a reason behind that. And creativity is something that we don't have to learn, we just don't have to forget it.
Love that. Yeah, my mom's a visual artist. Both my parents are actually, and that is often what my mom, though, who teaches, spends a lot of time trying to get the adult students, sometimes those who are very technically skilled, to remember that they're allowed to make mistakes and that they're allowed to kind of go back to the approach that they might have had as children.
Yes, and encourage mistakes. Like, try to mess up. Try and see where it takes you.
So you spend a long time with Cirque du Soleil, which I think is so interesting. The culture around Cirque, at least from what I've heard about, is a space that really encourages innovation and that kind of collaboration across different skill sets. And I would love to know a little bit more about what that was like for you, bringing, because I think you were part of the first show that they did as well, that brought figure skating into the circuit.
Yeah, to me, it was absolutely clear that there was going to be a show by Cirque du Soleil on the ice. This had to happen because they did, all the crazy things that you can think of, they did, right? And for us in the skating world, in the professional skating world, they've never done anything with skating, and they like to innovate and they like to do new things. That you see BMX, you see stages moving up and down. They did liquid water, but they haven't done frozen water. So I was just always hoping, keeping my fingers crossed, that they wouldn't wait too long until they did an ice show, and then if they choose to do it, that I would get to be part of it. And in both ways, I was super lucky that those things happened. They called me up. As far as I know, I was one of the first skaters they called up, and all the questions that I had for them, it was we don't know yet, we don't know yet, we don't know yet. And that's when I knew, like, oh, I gotta go, because when you're being part of a creation process, whether it's Cirque du Soleil or any other show, your DNA is within the show, because even if you're not in the production side or choreographer, every artist brings something to a show. And to me, like, the process with working with Cirque du Soleil, and especially Seven Shana from the Seven Fingers, it's a circus company, they have a way of bringing out a certain artistry in the artists that I haven't experienced from the figure skating world before, where it was really a creation process. Whereas in ice shows, a lot of times you come in and you learn the choreography, or you develop it a little bit. But with Cirque, it was really this exploration process and this mindset of, okay, this is something we haven't done before. We're going to ask really stupid questions. But those are the people that I enjoy to work with the most. People from circus, from dance, who don't know skating. They just know it. They will tell you a feeling that they're going for, or an image. And then you get to try to provide that or interpret what they're telling you. And that was really the special thing about Cirque du Soleil, and just it being a huge company and being able to perform for thousands of people every week, traveling the world. That in itself was, of course, absolutely amazing.
And I think you were just starting to get more involved with the choreography process before COVID. And now you're doing a show that you're getting to really be in that sort of creative driver's seat a lot of, I think. So could you talk a little bit about the show that you're doing now?
Yes, absolutely. So right now I'm in Phantasialand near Cologne. It's a show called Rock on Ice. So we're bringing, like, rock onto the ice. Which is a super cool, high energy show. And I've been here for quite some time now, always over the summer season, usually from March until the end of October. And also here, I was really lucky that I got to express myself in a lot of ways. I got to influence a lot when I started, how my solo looks like. Then I got to choreograph a little bit on the group numbers as well. And until I was choreographing, actually right before COVID, I was choreographing 2 full-length shows here as well. And to me, I have to give credit a lot to Audrey Wisiger, who did the Young Artist Showcase. She initiated that. And the first year I was here, I was able to do that and to choreograph. It really forced me to choreograph a different number, a different routine, either for a group or for two people every single week. So forcing that creativity out of you really is really good for creation, because yes, you will fail many times and there will be numbers that are terrible, but then there will some that are really good as well. And that really led me and sparked that choreographic path. And and so now I'm here choreographing still in the show, because at COVID I was like, oh, maybe it's time to slow down in skating, but I love skating. It's so much fun. There's nothing like it. It's the way we express ourselves. It's the best way I know how to express myself. And yeah, now being involved in the production side of things is just super enjoyable, challenging a lot of times, whether it's choreographing, casting, pre-production, music selection, all these things. Yes, I really enjoy it. There's just nothing like it.
No, that's really great. I always think with shows that there's this extra dimension of, you get, you know, what each of the talents of the individual skaters are, but then when the shows really that are really wonderful and come together, you get this, like, the benefit of more than the sum of the parts of all of those
Yes.
people that are
Mhm.
involved. And that's when you can tell that there's, you know, the choreographer, the director behind it is really putting in
Mhm.
that effort. That's great.
Yes. And that's the joy, to trying not to put make them do something that you think they're supposed to do, but listening to in our case, the skaters, the artists, to see what they bring to the stage, and to like, oh, maybe try it a little bit like this. And in that way, I think I'm trying to learn a lot from the acrobatic coaches, from the dancing choreographers that I've worked with, who were not able to communicate in the figure skating language, but who were just guiding towards something, but really allowing the artist themselves to express themselves on the ice. And then it really creates something that feels more authentic. And I think authenticity is really something that sometimes I feel we're missing in figure skating, because it's all very cookie cutter. It's like, you're supposed to be like this and like this and like that. So a lot of times skaters actually struggle with, well, what do you think? You know, what would you want to say? Because we're so used to, especially in the competitive world, for someone to tell us what to do. This is right, this is wrong, and this is the choreography. So the arm is supposed to go here or there. So I've seen a lot of blank faces sometimes, but I'm like, well, what do you think? What feels good to you? Like, what? Nobody ever asked me that. I don't know. So sometimes you have to remind people how it is to listen to themselves and to their bodies. Yeah.
Well, and for you casting and bringing in people who maybe haven't done as much professional skating before, what kinds of things do you feel like you end up needing to teach people coming into this this world of skating?
Counting. I think especially single skaters. I feel we never learn how to count, like just from 1 to 8, and all the ands and in betweens. This is really something that I would encourage everybody who's considering going into shows learns. Listen to your favorite songs, just trying to count them. Just sit there and go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so really, really do that. It will help you a lot in whatever show you're doing, because as creative and free music is, and as intuitive it is, it's also very mathematically. Like, there is, there are notes that are not here, not there. It's like right there. So when you're able to repeat this every time the same way, you have to know how to count. And other than that, just really allowing yourself to be out there, to have either a big smile on your face, or to cry on stage, or really allowing yourself to portray something on the ice. Because in shows you get to do, in my opinion, all the cool, fun things that you rarely get to do when competing. Yeah. Besides meeting cool people from all over the world and traveling, and so yeah.
No, I was laughing at the counting, because I think anyone who's ever watched a bunch of the top competitive skaters in the world try to put together their like gala opening number or something, you're like, wow, this really is just like, trying to herd a bunch of, 3
Yeah.
or 4-year-olds around the ice. It really is. Yeah, being able to do the elements, being able to follow directions
Mm,
and skate in a show, or
mm,
yeah, being able to do the elements, being able to follow
mm,
directions and skate in
mm.
a show, or
Yeah, it can be quite
necessarily.
scary. Yes. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, my first choreographer, like in the show, it was Sarah Kawara. I remember when she said, "Well, everything is mathematics." I'm like, especially music. I'm like what? I had just finished high school. I'm like, I'm done with math. Like, perfect, never again. And then she tells me this, but yes, there are times to be structured, especially in group numbers, and there are times to be absolutely free and feel the music the way you feel it. In usually in solo performances, or in a step out.
Yeah, I was thinking about, talking about creativity and all of this and watching some of the clips of the really amazing moves that you've been able to develop on the ice. I was thinking about having been watching some of the breaking in the Olympics and thinking more about this, not just the movement vocabulary, but even like the culture that comes around some of hip hop and breaking, and the idea of like how to constantly be challenging yourself or one-upping yourself or one-upping the person that's just gone, and
Mhm.
that's like, it's a kind of a different approach to competition or collaboration than we tend to see in the skating world. And so
Mhm.
I don't know if you have any thoughts about sort of that piece of where you draw that inspiration from, or yeah, what the
Yeah.
overlap is.
Mm. I mean, to me, even though I wouldn't say I was a great competitive skater. I did not have my best performances in the competition. It was usually the practice before or after that. I'm still feel that I'm a competitive person. So when I see someone do something, like, oh, I want to do that. So for example, I will never forget when I saw Philippe Candeloro do the Candeloro spin on the boots, like the boot spin. It is so cool, and I remember I want to do this. Like this is so cool, and then I will do whatever I can to do it. Or whenever, I mean, especially as guys, what I was never with a bunch of guys on the ice, or not a lot of guys. I remember whenever there were a group of men on the ice, I was like so inspired, like, oh, this is so cool. And yes, you do want to one up each other, and it creates this drive that is really hard to describe. So I think a healthy competition is definitely a good thing, and can inspire you. But then there's also unhealthy competition that just brings you down and is poisonous, and something you should definitely stay away from. I mean, to me, I grew up in an era of like I looked up to Elvis Stoico and Philippe Candeloro, Yagudin, Plushenko, Kurt Browning, of course, one of my big idols. And those are all characters on the ice. And seeing those men skating was super inspiring to me. And those were the people that I really looked up to. And those were the ones that I wanted to be. And so remembering how I felt when I saw them, I'm just trying to put cool stuff out in the world, and hopefully I can inspire some people to do cool stuff too with cool people, and that's really all we want to do.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think there's like that competition that you're doing with, not against other people, and that it can
Yes.
be a really positive thing. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, because you mentioned breakdancing, in on the ice, we have something like when it goes to like when it's about the culture. Like I think freestyle skating is just like breakdancing in the 90s, 80s, where it's like they have battles. I just went to like a very cool freestyle competition in Paris. It was super cool to watch. It was a one upping each other. There was a competition, but which was super cool. And the real magic happened though afterwards, because then there was like a public open skate where people just form a circle and they're doing cool tricks, and you look what they can do, and then you're trying to do this, but you add your own little twist to it. So I think something for everybody really to look out for right now is the freestyle skating scene. I mean, one of my good friends, Julien Dullière, he's one of the, I think, the icons of freestyle skating. He was one of the first ones who really made it popular, and every show that he went to, they wanted a freestyle skater, but he was the only one. So it was really hard to cast for that position. And now you see more and more amazing freestyle skaters pop up everywhere.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I would love to see, yeah, more of that kind of skating
Yeah.
being introduced, because I think we're seeing that desire often like in the competitive skating, like figure skating ISU world, that they're trying to capture little bits of that, but maybe coming at it from the idea is like, oh, well, if we allow, Adam Schoenfeld did a backflip and it went viral. Therefore, if we allow backflips, like we'll go viral. And it's sort of like, well, what you're trying to capture is the coolness and the rebelliousness and the vibe of it, not the backflip specifically. So I'm interested though to see what some of there was an announcement of looking into new competition formats and things like, I don't know how creative they're going to be with thinking outside of the box, but that there's going to be some more exposure.
Yes.
Different ideas.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, just from an entertainment point of view, it's like skating is so cool. There should be definitely different formats of how you can make the sport maybe a little bit more interesting. But it's hard. It's tough. There is a history. And
I think that's the idea, that whenever you want to open something up to new ideas, people are like, oh, does that mean we're losing what we had before? And it's like, no, there's room for balletic skating and for freestyle skating, and those are not there don't have to be contradictions to have room for both. And I think that's how I feel about it.
I would totally agree. Yes, the question is, how do we value it? How do we judge it? Because we decided to make, and that's the beauty about figure skating. Like in English, it's figure skating, but in French, it's patinage artistique. In German, as Kunstlaufen. Like they have the word artistry in the word. So judging art is like, of course, there's a subjective part in it, but that's the beauty for me about it, that you have the exposure of being an Olympic sport. At the same time, you have, like, I think one of the highest artistic values in a sport. So it's tricky. But that's the beauty of it, and that's why I love it so much. So.
And I think there's so much that's interesting. Part of the reason that I love talking to people who are doing interesting things kind of outside of the sort of strict like world of competitive skating is because there's so much that's interesting that's happening, outside of that space. And then, maybe it slowly makes its way back in. I did want to ask you, because you're someone who does a backflip and teaches people how to do a backflip on the ice. Is it hard? Is it really like this, is it dangerous? I feel like I've been seeing so many people who have never done one arguing about it online that I'm very curious what your take is.
Yeah. I did actually, it's funny you say that. I did a little mini documentary about the backflip 2 years ago with a German magazine. And it was exactly posing that question. Is it hard? Is it not hard? Should it be allowed? There's this whole history of like backflips in the figure skating world and this whole debate about it. And I think it's the backflip is just shows how a little bit conservative figure skating is, how it's willing to change, and the backflip is just like the manifestation of I think a certain kind of mindset in figure skating, because the backflip itself, it's is it difficult? Like, no, not once you know how to do it. Then it's not. Is it dangerous? Yes, if you mess up, it's actually very dangerous. You fall on your head. Like, people have died from performing a backflip. But once you master it and you do it every day, many times, then it becomes quote unquote easy, as everything does that you have mastered, right? But yes, of course it's dangerous. But we're running around on frozen water with knives on our feet. I mean, it is a dangerous sport, and anyone who never got hurt or injured probably hasn't really skated that much, because something is going to happen always. And with the backflip, I think it's super cool what Adam did. Yes, let's open the discussion of what else we can introduce into the skating world. I think, but I wouldn't make it everything around the backflip, because there are so many other things in skating that are so interesting and way above and beyond and around the backflip, that I think we have to look at a variety of things in figure skating, and to me that's why I love performing so much, because you can pretty much do whatever you want, and if you And if you like making funny, sometimes stupid reels or TikToks, then you can especially do whatever you want. So nobody's holding you back there. But when it comes to the sport, of course, there are always rules and regulations that where people are deciding what we want, what we don't want. Is the backflip now a quick fix? But what do we do when everybody does a backflip? What's a better backflip than the other? So I'm very interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, I think I would love to see them have a way to, put creativity, but also some kind of statement of, I don't know. I think we're still trying to figure out how to measure creativity and artistry and, intent, like you said about making choices. Like that's the thing that truly you're seeing, when someone is an artist on the ice. And I'm not sure that the current scoring system is doing a good job of capturing the thing that it's trying to capture from that regard. But I think there's a lot of people asking those questions now, though. So I'm tentatively hopeful that like somehow out of all of that questioning and people trying things, that maybe we'll come to some better way of dealing with that question of the artistry and the subjectivity and how you combine it. But because I want to see people keep trying different cool things. Like that's the thing that always I'm like, I don't want to see another person skate a perfect program that looks just like the person before them. I want to see somebody who is trying something new, even if it's a little messy. And so
I totally agree. I totally agree. There must be some kind of ways to distinguish also one skater from the other in a way, because at some point it all looks the same, and trying to capture something is one thing, but I think almost you have to let go of some things in order to allow people to give the room to express themselves. Because I mean, if you look at a free program, how much from that program is really choreography? It's such a small part sometimes, and there are people who do amazing things with even that little bit, and they find ways to be creative, and there are fantastic choreographers out there who really make the best out of it. But when it comes to rules and regulations, I think letting go a little bit and just see what happens, at least from an artistic point of view, that pays off hugely, because you cannot anticipate what people come up with when you give them room to try things and not punish them for whatever they do.
Exactly. No, I'm somewhat hopeful that at least even the changes that were proposed for this at this past Congress, they got postponed until after the Olympics, but that I think they were at least on the track of trying to create a little bit more space for creativity. That's the intention. And so like whether or not these are the right changes to get us to that goal, I at least felt reassured that the people writing the rules were at least had that as their expressed aim, was trying to create some more.
Let's hold them to it. Okay. Let's hold them to it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's interesting, but then, it runs up against any changes get kind of whittled down. So what you end up with is maybe not all that similar to the, what was the original goal. So probably. I wanted to ask you also, because I think I first came across your skating with the reel you did that went viral as an April Fool's joke, with you skating and doing a lot of pairs moves. And I thought that was so cool. But the thing that was so funny about it is that it really did go viral, and people didn't realize that it was you and Alejandro doing this just for fun, because it said, this is, the first, same-sex team to qualify for the Olympics. I had someone who does not know much about skating in my regular life say, "Hey, did you see that this news that there's going to be two men skating in the Olympics?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, but that was cool. It was a pretty cool video." So no, it was a funny thing. So how did you get the idea to do that and to learn some of those pair elements?
Well, so the video itself was a completely afterthought. It was April 1st, and I was like, oh, we didn't post anything for April 1st. Should we do something? And then I asked Alejandro, should we say we're gonna do, like, we're gonna go to the Olympics, something like that? I was like, nobody's gonna believe that. I was like, well, it's April Fool's. And then it was actually quite shocking how many, like you said, how many people really thought that was real, and then all the reactions to that. I was like, oh, okay. And it also made me realize the danger of social media, because that was the only, I mean, joke or lie, if you want, that I put out. But that's what people now associate, like, with this. And so, in a way, I thought, well, no wonder that there is so much misinformation also out there, because it works. You want views, you want likes, you want comments, you want shares. I just put something out that is edgy, that is like, you know. And so that was one thought that I had, and I think it's actually quite dangerous. Like, and it's the first time I really felt it, like, so viscerally with that. But to come to your question, like, why Alejandro and I are skating together, to me, on Cirque du Soleil was the first time when I really realized, working so closely with all the acrobats together, that is really only in skating, I think, that we have very strictly male female couples in ice dance and in pairs, and in the circus arts, that's not the case at all. Or in acro sports, there you have like two guys lifting each other, two girls lifting each other. You have four girls, and you have five men, and like all, you know, it doesn't matter. It's like, all they call them porter and flyers, right? So porter is the person lifting, and flying is the person, well, flying or being lifted, and that's how you distinguish, and it has nothing to do with gender, because why would it? But somehow in skating, like, that's what it's about. And so that was really the first time when I had like this aha moment. And already on Circle, I was like, man, like two guys skating. And I've seen it a little bit in shows. You've seen especially acrobats do it, and they do very, very acrobatic stuff, like hand to hand, because they're coming probably from the circus scene and they know how to skate, so they do all these acrobatic things. But I thought, personally, and I've seen a lot of shows, but I haven't seen a lot of like guys do it, like, who are coming from ice skating, from figure skating, to just skate together and to do the things that we do. And then we had this in show here at Phantasialand that we're doing, where everybody can just perform and show whatever they want to do. Many shows have it, like on Disney, on holiday. I think on ships too, like they do it because it's a beautiful way of expressing yourself. Because you do that same show every day. Now let's see what you can bring in, and sometimes some great ideas come exactly from that. It's kind of like a hackathon for ice shows. And so we decided really the day before or something like this, like, should we do it? Should we not do it? Like, okay, whatever, let's do it. This was fun. And so, yeah, we put a number together very quickly. It was really rough around the edges. But the artistic director from the park really liked that number. We tweaked it a little bit, and then the next season it was in the show, and we've been performing it ever since. And it's so fun. Like, I have such a great partner in Alejandro, on and off the ice. Like, we really support each other with wherever possible, and we always try to innovate and we're trying new things, and it's just so fun. And at the same time, it's so shocking how innovative it is, because it's like, is it? Nobody thought of this, and I know people did, but yeah, you don't see it a lot, and I hope we'll see more of that. So in a way, I was hoping when this video went viral, I hope that really more people thought about, you know, skating together with whoever they want to skate with, and whoever lived too.
It's really cool for people to realize that these things are possible, because it's interesting just how many people that, you know, that I talk to who are, you think, oh, sure, maybe ice dance, it would work, but I don't know about pairs. And so that's the thing that I think is still a little harder for people who aren't exposed to, like you were saying, to the world where there are people doing this in acrobatics all the time. You would think that we would watch synchronized skating and see the kinds of lifts that the synchro teams do and think that this is not that much of a reach either. But it's still funny in the pairs world that people who are say, oh, sure, I'm open to the idea in theory, but I don't think anyone's going to really actually go for it and be able to do it. And it's like, I think that you'll be surprised. So
Mm.
I'm really interested to see what's going to keep happening in Canada now that they've allowed it, because we are
Yeah.
starting to see a few dance teams. There's a
Hmm.
really nice novice dance team that's two girls that are doing pretty well and are really fun to watch. And so I'm hoping that we'll start to see some, some pairs at that kind of level too, and be able to have even more examples. But I thought it was so cool what you were doing, and just also showing like that you're having so much fun with it, also that it doesn't have to be that pairs, which itself can feel kind of like intense and serious, can also be a fun thing. I think it was a nice thing to show too.
That's my main motivation, like having fun with something. Like, yeah, yeah, and that's why it's so important to have a great partner, also that you can have fun with, that you have a good communication with. So that's because I mean, pairs, they know that it's delicate. It's very delicate. Mm.
Yeah, and it definitely takes some time to start figuring out, like, you know, when you are still needing to count everything versus when you just kind of actually do start to figure out each other's rhythms and all of that. Yeah, and it definitely takes some time to start figuring out, like, you know, when you are still needing to count everything versus when you just kind of you actually do start to figure out each other's rhythms and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I also wanted to ask you about, switching topics a little bit, about your thesis and the
Yes.
work that you're doing with AI, because I thought that was so interesting. It also seems, a little bit different than what we've been talking about with your on ice work.
So yeah, I mean, it was during COVID when everything was shut down, and it's like, oh, what should I do? I don't know. There was nothing to do, and I like to explore different things. And one day, I think I was sitting outside with my mom and my sister, and they were like, "Oh, there's this AI thing," and that was 2020, so AI was not as hot of a topic as it is right now. But there was a university in Austria that were offering a program which was mostly online. So since at that time nobody knew what and when was going to happen, I was like, oh, maybe, why not? Let's check it out. See how far I get, because I had zero hopes of even completing that. And yeah, and now I'm writing my thesis in artificial intelligence, specifically in the field of effective computing, where I'm exploring physiological signals and self-reported survey questions about emotion recognition in professional figure skaters. So again, I get to combine my two fields of interest, which is kind of like my common theme a little bit in my life, combining two different things in my thesis, and it's been super interesting. Of course, actually applying the things that you've learned, like developing different algorithms to being able to just discover different patterns in figure skating, and just thinking about how technology in general can aid figure skating, coaching, choreography in the future. And of course, right now it's super hyped. I think it's a little overhyped, but I think there are some really great things that will come out of that. One amazing workshop that I did last year, it was called the Choreographic Coding Lab. Super cool, which also exactly combined that, where we were getting motion data from, it was like kind of a volume where you were able to record motion. And similar as we're doing it right now with LLMs, we were predicting and clustering movement. So think of very basic ChatGPT, what everybody knows now, LLMs. What they're doing is they're predicting words, right? Just on a massive scale. So if I say, hey, hello, how are you? Oh, maybe the next word is doing. Kind of like we know from the phones too. But LLMs are doing that on a huge scale. Now, why not apply that same concept to movement data? So I think that is super interesting. So for example, you're saying like, okay, now I'm moving here and then I'm moving there. So what's the next move? Okay, so there is an infinite possibility, but statistically, what could the next move be? Now, we don't have as much movement data right now as we have words and language data, but there are a lot of videos, a lot of dance videos. Skating is a little bit maybe more tricky to capture, but that's something that I'd be really interested in working on in the future. And yeah, it's not something I thought I would be excited about or even interested in, but getting to combine it with my core competency of skating with this really interesting and cutting edge technology is super fun and super cool, and I can't wait to see where things are going. Also in the creative process, being able to express your ideas in a creative field, because it's not all just like, okay, statistics and analysis and this, but there are also immense applications for creative fields, because now you and I can go ahead and create a concept of a show, for example. That is something that I was teaching in Austria as a consultant to an organization, where I was introducing or just showing different tools that one can use in schools and universities to become data literate, to AI literate, but especially in those creative tools that just help everybody to be able to express and to show and visualize their ideas better.
That's really interesting, because I think often I see people in creative fields having some fear of AI and feeling like, oh, this is going to take the place of artists, or it's going to take our writers, or why are we using technology for the things that human creativity, all of this. And I think we often see that fear of technology, and then people find ways to use the technology in pursuit of their own creativity. But
yes,
it's something that that I see a lot. Like, it's both hyped in some places and really feared in others. And but you're seeing it as a positive thing more than something to be afraid of.
Absolutely, I have to see the positive. There are definitely things that you have to be aware of, I would say. I don't think you have to be afraid, because there is a good saying, I can't remember who said it, but AI is not going to replace anyone, but people who know how to use those AI tools are going to replace people who don't. And that I very much believe to be true. To me, it's super fun to play around with those things. You can brainstorm super, super quickly. So for example, this picture that you see here, that was one of my very first creations that I did with an image, like text to image generating AI. And that was it was a prompt, and I think it was like an African Austrian figure skater with an traditional African clothes performing on the ice on the spotlight, which is an edge case scenario. Now, though that prompt looks today totally different, but the AI is only as good as the data that is trained on, and it's trained on the data that is mostly represented in society or in online, which to me puts the value even more so on creativity, because AI will only generate more of what it knows in a way, unless you prompt it to think outside the box, unless you can make those connections. And that's why I think this whole development is super interesting, because yes, of course, you can write maybe a book with some AI, but is it going to be any good? No, you still have to understand dramaturgy, and you have to understand what is a good story, what is a bad story. You have to understand culture. You have to understand all these things that are nuanced, but you don't have to type. You don't have to know the tools. Same for coding. Like, you still need to understand the code, but you can think about broader concepts. You can brainstorm. You can iterate much faster and in higher quality. And I think the people that will make use of it, they will create absolutely amazing things.
And you were saying about the use of, you were also doing something with survey data and the emotional side of figure skaters. How does that fit into this, through the technology?
So one of my research questions is that whether we can predict emotions in professional figure skaters before and after the show, what correlates with which emotions, what influences skaters' performances, everything self-perceived. So how skaters perceive themselves. So yeah, I had the skaters fill out survey questions before and after the show, and then during the show, I was tracking their heart rate with like smartwatches that are basically not visible during a performance. And I was just seeing what we can get from that data, and also it was good for me to actually try something that I learned during my studies hands-on on a field that really interests me. So being able to play around with that data that I collected myself was super interesting. The methodology to see, okay, what is the process? Because I know how to put together a program. I can choreograph for a senior program. I go and I do this and that, no problem. I can choreograph a show, and I'm like, okay, that's the music, and I know, all right, I have to do the casting, this and that. But for an AI project, that is very different, and you really have to pay attention to just very different things. But for me, what was interesting is applying similar principles and an enthusiasm that I have for skating on a very different field, but inherently it feels similar in terms of excitement and just what I feel for it and the innovation that we can actually do with it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's very cool. I can identify with that, the way that you can have that kind of creative excitement for a project, even if it doesn't, if it's something that immediately sounds like it's a creative output. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have an idea and you can just, type in the words and you can show it to someone, like just a rough draft. But sometimes you cannot say the words, but you want to show it. And now with image to video, you can show a video of something, even if it's just a rough draft. And all the technology, that's as bad as ever gonna be, right now. So it's only gonna improve from here. So yes, I encourage everybody to play around with it. Don't be too scared. It's all actually, fairly simple. No code mostly. So yes. And that's what I wanted to do also. Like I want to teach people how to use those tools and to not be afraid of those things, because it's just so much fun. And once you understand it, even just a little bit, you go play and you have fun. And you don't have to understand all the underlying technology. You don't have to know what is supervised learning, self-supervised learning, reinforcement learning. You don't have to know these things. You can just play around with it and still use AI. And everybody should feel very lucky that it is like that, because that's very hard.
So I always like to end with the question of, what do you hope for from the future of figure skating? And I feel like we're having a very, future-oriented conversation right now.
Yeah.
But what kinds of dreams and hopes for the future do you have?
I would love for figure skating just to bring people joy, like to spark excitement, to inspire people, because there's nothing like it. There's nothing like ice skating, figure skating. And figure skating to me, it's such a beautiful sport. And I think everybody should enjoy it as much as possible. If anyone ever gets the chance to skate on natural ice, I think everybody should do it. Like there's nothing like it. Like those are the most beautiful days in my life for sure. And I just hope that skating in all forms, whether it's in competitive skating, professional skating, in all kinds of way, whether it's in real life or on social media, on the TV, that it just continues to spark joy and awe for what people are able to do on frozen water with knives under their feet.
Thanks so much, Zabato. I hope so too. It's been great talking with you, and I really am excited to see how all of your projects continue to evolve. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
Thanks again to Zabato for speaking with me. You can find the transcript and links to the things we talked about in the show notes and description. You can follow Zabato on Instagram at Zabato Bebe. You can reach me with comments or suggestions for topics and people I should talk to by email at fsfuturepodcast@gmail.com or on Instagram at futurefspodcast and Blue Sky at futureofs. If you appreciate the podcast, you can also support my work with a tip jar at futureoffigureskating.pinecast.co. Remember to subscribe to the Future of Figure Skating on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your friends.